Hi everybody. I'm going to do this video a little bit different than some of the other videos. I am going to be introducing new information, but I would also like to go back and review things as we work. So hopefully you've been watching these in order. They are intended to be watched in a certain order. And with anatomy, what we're doing is we're moving up this level to all the way to an organism, which is you, a human being. So I do expect you to know all of these basic levels in order and a little bit about each one. This particular video, I'm going to focus on the four organic compounds. We're at this level now. So as we work up this level, we've been talking about the elements, these atoms here. So to review, one of the best ways is repetition. The more that you hear something, the more that you are going to learn. So what I do is I'm going to bring back things that we've already talked about in slightly different ways. And that is the other way that we learn. We learn by association. Our brains work best when we can take something we already know a little bit about and add to it. So that's how I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to add some things new and talk about things you're supposed to already be picking up. So for the human body, these are the elements that are the primary for us. So the symbol, you're supposed to be able to tell me symbols for this first test. Carbon is just a C, nitrogen is just an N, and phosphorus is a P. Calcium, though, is a Ca. Right? Now, we start putting these elements together and we get larger molecules called organic compounds. Now, they're called organic because they are either created by a living creature or they are part of a living creature. So here we are. All of these four organic compounds are based on carbon. Right? So we are carbon-based units. Okay. So first off, just a very little bit here about nucleic acids. These are carbon-based molecules, of course. Most people have heard of DNA. RNA is going to be a single copy of that DNA that allows us to create proteins. So when we do this, DNA itself is a double-stranded helix. Again, it is made up of repeating base units called nucleotides, right there. There are four of them, and we can arrange that to make everything we want, to produce all kind of proteins and to direct the all of the DNA for your offspring. We're going to put all of that DNA in the nucleus of a cell. This will be the organelle found in the majority of cells in the human body. Now, next I'll spend most of this video about protein. All right. This is an organic compound, and primarily the first thought you have is that it's structural. This is the wooden frames in the house. We're going to use the proteins to create things. So through this course, I'm going to spend quite a bit of time. We'll have a whole unit about muscles. That's a protein fiber. We're going to see it in all of the cells, creating in the shapes of our cells. This video, I'm going to talk to you about enzymes. These are specialized proteins that speed up chemical reactions. We also have some proteins that are going to carry other substances, such as hemoglobin, the protein that carries oxygen. That is part of your circulatory system. Okay. Now, every day, your DNA is actively producing proteins needed for all kind of processes in your body. So the repeating unit is something called an amino acid. This is a chemical that we're going to put together to form these proteins. So DNA is basically the recipe. It is going to tell our body how to put these amino acids in the correct order. Now we get these from our diet. So it's easiest to think about meat. Again, we know that any kind of meat is muscle tissue from an animal, but you also get proteins from vegetables. They're, again, full of protein too. And again, we get these building blocks and then we rearrange them to make whatever we want. So overall, there are 20 amino acids, and it's like the 26 letters in the alphabet. We can rearrange all these amino acids to create whichever protein we want. So if you look at this, here are our amino acids. Our DNA organizes which order these little amino acids will be put together, form something called a peptide, and ultimately we put this together and it coils up in the right shape, we get a protein. Now, all amino acids are based on carbon. Again, this is a carbon-based organic compound. We have this basic structural unit, and then there is this R group that will be different for each amino acid. Now, we put these amino acids together and we form a long chain. That is called the primary structure, and it needs to be in the right order to be functional. Again, it takes energy to do this, so we need ATP. That is our energy molecule for all chemical reactions within cells. Now, there are 20 amino acids. Again, each one is based on this basic structure. Now, I don't require that you know all 20 of these, just know the number, that there are 20, but you do need to understand that some of them are nonpolar and won't react with anything. If you remember, polar means different from side to side, and we have some that are polar and will interact with water. Nonpolar amino acids would not interact with water. And then some of the amino acids have a charge, either positive or negative. If you remember, positive and negative charges tend to attract, opposites attract. Now, what that means is that when we put these amino acids in order, some of them that have charges are going to attract each other, so that will affect how they fold together. And so you get these levels of folding in which they start to create a shape of that protein, and ultimately some of them will go on to form kind of larger structures that will literally create the correct shape. So what I mean by this is that if you don't put them in the correct order, the protein might not work right. So pathology is the study of diseases, like infectious diseases, okay? But it's also the study of disorders. So sometimes there are genetic disorders in which these amino acids don't come together correctly, and you have some severe consequences. So the proteins have to fold in the correct order, or that protein won't be able to do its job. So in this particular course, I'll talk a little bit about muscular dystrophy when we get to the muscles. Osteogenesis imperfecta, this is the inability to create one particular protein. And when we get to skin, I'll talk about this one. All of these are the inability to produce one particular protein. And again, sometimes it's one very minor thing. Sickle cell anemia is only because one amino acid is not placed in the correct order. So when we look at protein, it's a very important organic compound. So I want you to know a little bit about it. Overall, there are two basic kinds. And if you remember this, form follows function. Our human body, if we need it to do a certain thing, it's going to look a certain way because of what it needs to do. So if we need something to be strong, we need to be more rope-like. So collagen is one of our most common proteins. It's very, very strong. We're going to find it in our skin, in our bones. We're going to find it in tendons and ligaments. And it's very rope-like because of what it needs to do. Now the other shape is globular, and again this is more of a round, like a globe, if you want to think of it that way. So some proteins are going to fold up into this type of shape. So we're going to see these with enzymes, antibodies, and antibodies are found in the immune system. So if you remember, you work on your organ systems. The hormones are going to be chemicals that control our body and regulate our body. They're found in the endocrine system. So again, proteins are very, very important in all different systems of our body. And when we look at metabolism, again, this is one of those characteristics of life. And again, we're going back and forth between either breaking something down, which is catabolism, or anabolism, which is making something, using energy to create something. So the protein that we're going to be talking about that controls all of this, these are enzymes, and they are globular. So we look at this, the most important word to think about is this word catalyst. Enzymes catalyze or speed up chemical reactions. So these chemical reactions in our body are going to be taking place, but enzymes are going to make them go so much faster. Right? Now, what they do, well, they're only going to see one thing, substrate specific. That means this enzyme is only going to react with one particular thing. So if you look over here, here you have the enzyme, which is being shown in yellow, and the substrate is whatever it sees, what it's going to change, and then it's going to alter it chemically and create or break down that particular substrate into two products. So it's easy to start with food. Think about you're taking in some type of food and you're breaking it down into two smaller parts. Now, the thing about enzymes is that we can reuse them. They do not become part of the product. All right? So if you look at this, here's the enzyme in blue. Here's what we are changing. Think of this maybe as food. The enzyme sees it, recognizes it, and chemically breaks it apart into two smaller products that we can absorb. And that's digestion. Right? So the enzyme itself didn't change. It can be reused over and over and over, and it does not become part of the product. These are enzyme characteristics that I expect you to know for the test. So another characteristic of enzymes is usually, the majority of the time, it has this ASC ending, and it will indicate what that enzyme is targeting. So a protease, sounds like protein, it will target proteins and break it down, and there's our building blocks, amino acids. Okay? And then our body takes those amino acids, and the cells use them and creates whatever it wants. Right? Lipase would be targeting lipids, which are fats. Lactase is targeting a sugar called lactose that we find in dairy products. Sucrase is targeting sucrose, which is table sugar. Now, digestive enzymes are very important for us. Of course, that's a characteristic of life, that we need to be able to digest food to get our energy. So when we do this, the enzymes are responsible for this. They are going to break these food molecules down into smaller units, and where do they go? Everything goes into the blood, goes into the circulatory system. In one of the videos, I talked about what happens when you drink water. The water goes down into the digestive system, goes into the small intestine, and you absorb it into the blood. And again, circulatory system right there. All of the things that we absorb ultimately have to go into the bloodstream. Now, the organ that is going to create these digestive enzymes, hopefully you're working on learning your body parts. I'm pointing right here to the pancreas. The pancreas is going to produce 95% of your digestive enzymes, and you cannot live without a pancreas. It's very, very important. Now, back to enzymes. In this picture, you're seeing lactose, which is a dairy sugar, and the enzyme here, ASC ending, telling you that that is the enzyme, breaks it down into two simple sugars, galactose and glucose. And overall, if we're breaking something down, that's catabolism. Right? Anabolism would be building something up. So catabolism is the part of anabolism that says it's a part of metabolism that says we're breaking something down. Now, on the other hand, sometimes in this GIF here, you'll see that the enzyme is seeing two smaller substrates and it puts them together. So this will require energy in the form of ATP. So we've created something. Here the end product is now something that has been put together. Now you can think of two amino acids that get put together to make a small peptide. That would be anabolism. We're putting things together. And I think in the first video I talked about anabolic steroids, how someone builds up muscle. So anabolism is the building up process. It takes energy. All right. Now, in the human body, it's not that simple. Most of the reactions are pathways, and literally one reaction will cause another reaction, and so forth. But at this point, I'm not asking you to memorize any of these reactions. Okay. Now, you've all know that it's bad to have a high fever for a long period of time, and this goes down back to proteins. So normal human body temperature in Celsius is 37 degrees, and most of our enzymes are set to work at that. They like 37. So if it's not at 37, if it gets too high, the enzymes are actually going to denature and they will not be active anymore. So it's very dangerous for our body to be at the wrong temperature for too long a period of time. So this word denature, what is literally happening is the bonds between these amino acids are breaking. And that means that the protein is going to unfold and it's no longer in its active shape anymore, can't do its job. So therefore enzymes can't catalyze all these thousands of reactions that need to be going on in the body. So denatured proteins, that can be due to changes in temperature, but it can also occur when the pH alters. So here's an example. If you cook an egg, you're literally denaturing the proteins in that egg, and it can't go back. All right, it's been unfolded, completely changed consistency. Now, if you've ever let milk go too long, the bacteria start to produce acid. The change in pH will alter the consistency of the protein in the milk, and you'll get that curdled milk. So let's go back and review. Overall pH is 0 to 14. A lot of students forget. They don't think it's something else, but it's literally 0 to 14. And the pH in the stomach is really low. It's acidic. It's around 2. And it's involved in digesting proteins. So literally denatures proteins in the food that we eat. Now, back to this. A very important type of protein in the body are structural, and they're fibrous, and they are not affected by temperature or pH. They're stable. So if you have a high fever, your bones don't melt, right? Okay, so fever is affecting the globular type proteins. Okay, a little bit about how we get rid of things. Now, nitrogen, this N group here, is difficult for our body to deal with as a waste product. So we do have to have some special systems in place to deal with breakdown products from proteins and nucleic acids. So to do this, let's go back and review a little bit about how we deal with excretions. A secretion is something that I intend to produce. An excretion implies I want to get rid of it. So organ systems, again, feces are waste product from digestive system, carbon dioxide from respiratory. And here we have nitrogen-containing waste products that the urinary system is going to deal with it. So if we go back, again, nucleic acids, one of the waste products that will be produced is something called uric acid. And it kind of sounds like urine. So ultimately, it could be cells that your body is breaking down itself, or it could be from the foods that you eat. And unfortunately, here is a type of disorder that can occur if your body is not able to take this uric acid out of the blood. It will build up in the joints, and you get this type of arthritis. And again, that is the kidney. Okay, the kidney is filtering your blood and removing this uric acid from the blood. And if your kidneys aren't doing their job, it will tend to build up with this gout. So again, make sure you're learning all your organs. This right here, this would be the urinary bladder. So urea is the waste product from protein breakdown. So uric acid was from nucleic acids. So again, this nitrogen group, we're going to have different ways that different animals get rid of this particular product. But in humans, urea is the breakdown product from protein, uric acid from nucleic acids, and the organ system that's dealing with this is the urinary system that's going to take this out and create urine. Now overall, just be sure that you're reviewing the videos, that you're looking at the study guides, and as always, go back to our book. Right? Take a look at it, see the topics that I've covered in the video, look at your study guide, and then go into the book itself and read those chapters as well, because the book is going to have a really nice way of putting the information together again, and it's reinforcing what you've heard from the video. Thank you.